Hello, my name is Joe Paradis. I'm author of the Saving the Dark Side series and creator of the world of Anaria. This is my introductory video where I'm going to be introducing myself, of course, and telling you how and why I got into this whole writing thing. So let's get started. A lot of authors will tell you that they've been writing their entire lives, and everybody knew since the day they were born they were going to be a writer. They were going to be an author someday. That was definitely not the case for me. I did a little bit of writing in school and whatnot, but I hated every second of it because it was too clinical, too restrictive. Every once in a while there'd be a creative project, that would be a little fun for me, but nothing really struck with me. Other than that, some other clues that I might be a writer one day. One would be that I told a lot of lies as a kid. I like to embellish stories and fluff them up because it felt really good to be the one to elicit that reaction out of people, to make people feel things. I guess that was my first clue that I liked being a storyteller. I can only realize that now, looking back, but back then I was just a little liar. Another clue would be, as a child, my friends and I would play action figures, and we'd lock ourselves in a room for hours at a time, no food, no water, and we're playing with these action figures. And at the time, it was just us having fun. But now, looking back, we made some pretty epic stories in there, and yeah, there was a lot that happened in those little rooms. So that was my experience with writing and storytelling. It was very limited in my formative years. So fast forward to about 10 years ago. Again, I'd never really written a word with any intentions my entire life. About 10 years ago, I had a dream. It seemed very, very important. It shook me. It hit me very, very hard. And I woke up from this dream, and I thought, well, I guess I should write a book. I guess I should write this stuff down. So I wrote, the first thing I did was pull out my crappy old laptop, and I wrote down everything that I knew about the dream. And this dream came to be what is now Saving the Dark Side series. That the entire history, the overall story, the characters, they were pretty much, they were in this dream. So I write down everything I know. I do the first chapter, which took me months, but I had no work ethic. I didn't know what I was doing, and before I knew it, I had 20 pages done, and then I just kind of lost interest. Then after that, I had an incident where I got a virus on my laptop, and I bring it to Best Buy because I didn't know anything about computers then either. So I bring it to Best Buy, and I'm like, all right, all my important stuff is on hard drive A. Don't wipe hard drive A, only wipe hard drive B. Turns out they were the same hard drive, and I lost everything. Which is honestly the best thing that could have happened for this story, because I was not ready yet. I had the story inside of me, but I was not ready yet as a writer. I had not read enough. I hadn't exercised any writing muscles whatsoever. It was pretty much unreadable, everything that I lost, which I'm totally okay with. So after that, we go about 10 years in the future. I spend my 20s in the military, working various jobs that were not very fulfilling. Um, and it wasn't until a deployment in 2015 where it was it was a low point for me. This deployment was not difficult or dangerous by any stretch of the imagination, but I was going through some emotionally difficult things that I had never dealt with before. And what I learned about myself uh, when dealing with emotions, when dealing with emotional trauma, it opened me up creatively, and it opened me up emotionally. I was thinking in ways I never thought before. But most of all, I was hurting. I was hurting pretty bad, and I needed some kind of outlet. So I started journaling. I started writing down my feelings because it made me feel good. And then I thought, while I was at it, why don't I try picking up that book again? So I started pecking away at it for like a month or two. I rewrote that first chapter, and I noticed that this writing that I'm doing, it has more oomph to it. It seems like it has some hope to it. Like it could be a decent product. Um, so I was pecking away at it during the deployment, but then um, coming home from the deployment, life events and whatnot, they sort of took precedence. They became my main focus of things. So in January of 2016, I'm back from this deployment, back in New Hampshire, and I'm in another low point. This is probably the lowest point I've ever been in, and that's when things in the writing world, like the stars, began to align for me, in a sense, where my friend Brandon, he just happened to be kicking around a business idea of helping new authors get on their feet. And so it comes to a head where he gets wind that I've been doing a little bit of writing, so he sits me down and we're talking about it. And he says, "So Joe, how many words do you write in a day?" And I'm like, "I have no idea. I write when I feel inspired." I never really thought about it in word count before. And then he informed me that as a writer, you quantify books by word count. So he, we came to a number where he's like, "Do you feel like you could do 300 words in a day?" And I'm like, "Well, I think I did 1,000 in a day once, but I had all day to do it, and I really needed it." But we came to that magic number of 300, and I was like, "Yes, I could do 300 in a day, every day if I had to." And I'm like, where are you going with this? Like, why am I writing every day? This book is something I'm going to complete in 10 years or never, or I don't know, it's just something I'm going to pick away at. And then he says, "Well, if you do 300 words a day, every day, in 6 months, you're going to have a book's worth of words." And self-published authors, they are around 3 books to 5 books completed. That's when they're leaving their day jobs. That's when their lives are changing and they're doing this full time. And he's like, "Wouldn't you like to be doing this full time?" And that was the moment. That was the moment when I realized that this 10-year goal was actually very achievable. It could be done in 6 months or less. And that was the spark that really lit the fire. And that was my aha moment. That's where it all really started for me. So then I start writing. I start doing my 300 words a day, and I quickly realized that 300 words a day, I couldn't do it. I couldn't stick to 300. And so that 300 immediately became 500. And this writing was filling a gap in my soul, in my free time. I was still going through these emotionally traumatic things, and this writing was there for me. It was there for me every day, every night. It was always there. And my life began to orient itself towards the writing because I needed it at this point in my life. Um, so as I'm writing, as I'm learning things about myself and the writing process, I'm looking for little tips and tricks to make things a little better. Little things like a little bit of coffee. I realized that would help me with the writing. I'd light a candle at my desk. I realized that would help me. Or I'd go out into the city and write in bars. I'd write in coffee shops. I'd write while waiting for my tires to get changed or getting work done at the shop. Um, I found all these little tips and tricks to make my writing better and make myself more productive. And then in my search, I came across Stephen King's book on writing, and it was a very interesting read. I learned a lot about him, and I learned a lot about the craft. My big takeaway from that book, and I'm going to paraphrase here, so do not quote me on this, but my big takeaway from the book is what he recommends to new authors is to write 1,000 words a day. And if you're not going to meet that 1,000 word a day quota, like, don't bother. He challenged me. That's how I felt. I felt really challenged. And he also says that most authors are never going to make a dime. They're never going to they're going to put way more into this than they're ever going to get out of it financially. But that's not the reason why you should be writing. So I took this challenge to heart, and then from that day forward, in January of 2016, I've been doing 1,000 words a day, every day. And that has produced five books. Most of them are pretty decent size. And that's what brought me here today. Now I'm focused more on the business end of things, like trying to get my platform up and running. But I'll talk about that in a later video. But right now I'm going to change gears. Told you how I got here, but now I want to tell you why I'm doing it. Why do I write? So I spent the good majority of my life not acknowledging emotions, not exploring certain parts of myself. Especially in my 20s, I focused on making safe choices, making sure my future was secure. And if I didn't get a tangible benefit from something, I didn't invest in it. And that hurt my relationships with a lot of people. And I really didn't like the person who I was. But one thing that would happen while I'm living this stoic, withdrawn lifestyle is that I would encounter stories. Or I would encounter things that would hit me emotionally in ways that I was not prepared for, in ways that I've never addressed. They'd hit me in movies, in books, in video games, and even songs. And then also in life events like breakups and relationships and whatnot, I would get hit hard in these emotions. And I would feel things like rage or love, fear. Some of these emotions, if you've read the books, you'll recognize them from the Magic System in Saving the Dark Side series. But so whenever I encountered these emotions, I didn't handle them well. I would encounter them. Some that really hit me were like I was not good at relationships, so I'd encounter a movie such as the Benjamin Button movie, or Time Traveler's Wife, or The Notebook, or something, and it would hit me so hard that I'd be grieving a movie for like 3 days to a week. I'd be grieving it, and it was not a normal reaction. And that's kind of funny. It's kind of silly, me being crying and broken up over a movie. But when I would encounter something more severe, like the death of a loved one or a breakup, I was not emotionally equipped to deal with those things, and um, I would I was dealing with severe, not severe. I was dealing with depression and anxiety, and it was because I didn't explore those parts of myself. I never learned those parts of myself. So that gets to why I write today, because I seek out those stories that make me feel those things that I don't address, those things that I don't explore. And that's what I want to do for other people through my stories. I want to I want to make you feel things that you might not have explored. I want you to see parts of yourself that you might not know. I want you to feel that hatred. I want you to feel despair. I want to give you your hope and make you feel like everything's going to be okay, and then I want to take all of that away from you. I want you to experience loss. And on the positive side, I want you to feel experience things such as love and a righteous rage, um, and a serene, calm sort of wisdom feeling. Again, I'm referencing the magic system in Saving the Dark Side, but that's what I want to do for you, the reader, because that's helped me out tremendously in my life, where I've learned about myself and I've grown. And doing it through story in books is a much safer, much more preferable way than learning lessons the hard way like I did. Um, so yeah, but that's how I became a writer. That's why I write, and that is going to be the end of this video, I think. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't know when the next one's going to come out, but stay tuned. Subscribe if you wanna find out right away when the next one's coming out. But yeah, that's it for this one. Take care, guys.